By the time evening reached Willow Lane, it did so quietly, not with noise or urgency, but with a gentle easing, as though the day itself had exhaled and decided to rest. The sky softened first, turning from pale blue to a deepening lavender, and then slowly into a calm, dusky gray. The sun slipped behind the distant rooftops without ceremony, leaving behind a warm glow that lingered just long enough to say goodbye. Willow Lane was a short street. It didn't rush anywhere, and nothing hurried through it. The houses stood comfortably apart, each with its own small garden, its own front steps, its own familiar rhythm. Tall trees lined both sides of the road, their branches arching overhead like a protective canopy. Their leaves whispered gently whenever the breeze passed through, as if sharing secrets only the evening could hear. Street lights flickered on one by one, not all at once, but gradually, a soft yellow glow blooming down the lane. The light reflected faintly on the pavement, where the warmth of the day still lingered beneath the cool of the night. At number 7 Willow Lane, a window stood open just a little. Inside, the house was quiet in the way that felt intentional. Lamps glowed softly in corners. Curtains rested half-drawn, allowing the outside light to mingle with the warmth inside. Somewhere deeper in the house, a clock ticked steadily, marking time without pressure. This was a house that knew how to rest. In the living room, a comfortable armchair sat near the window, angled just enough to watch the street without being fully seen. A knitted blanket rested over one arm, slightly rumpled as though it had been used many times and loved every time. Outside, a cat moved silently along the low stone wall, its paws careful, its tail swaying lazily. It paused beneath the streetlight, looked around as if checking that everything was in its place, and then continued on, disappearing between two houses. Willow Lane always felt like this at night, safe, familiar, unrushed. Further down the street, a porch swing at number 12 creaked softly as it swayed in the breeze. No one sat on it now, but it moved anyway, responding to the rhythm of the evening. Wind chimes nearby gave a quiet, musical sound, slow, spaced out, never sharp. The air smelled faintly of clean earth and leaves. Somewhere a garden had been watered earlier, and the scent lingered, grounding and calm. As night settled deeper, small lights appeared in windows up and down the lane. Each one told its own quiet story. Someone finishing a book, someone washing dishes, someone simply sitting and listening to the silence. Willow Lane didn't demand attention, it invited it. At the very end of the street, where the road curved gently out of sight, the tallest willow tree stood. Its long branches dipped toward the ground, swaying slowly, endlessly patient. If you stood beneath it, you could hear the soft brushing of leaves against each other, a sound like breathing. Some said the tree had been there longer than any house on the street. Others said it watched over Willow Lane, remembering everything so the people didn't have to. Tonight, the willow moved just a little more than usual, not in warning, just in welcome. As the sky darkened fully, stars began to appear, not all at once, but one by one, like tiny reminders that the world was wide and calm still existed within it. And on Willow Lane, the night was just beginning. As the evening deepened, Willow Lane continued to settle into itself. The streetlights glowed a little brighter now, not harsher, just steadier, as though they had found their balance. Shadows stretched gently across the pavement, soft-edged and unafraid, moving slowly as the leaves above shifted in the breeze. Inside the houses, small routines unfolded. At number 3, warm light spilled into the kitchen. A kettle rested on the stove, no longer boiling, just warm enough to hold comfort. A mug sat beside it, steam thinning into the air, carrying the faint scent of chamomile. The window above the sink was open just a crack, letting in the sound of the leaves and the distant hum of the world beyond the lane. Someone rinsed a plate, unhurried. The water flowed softly, then stopped. The dish towel was folded neatly and placed back where it belonged. Nothing was left undone. Nothing needed to be rushed. Across the street at number 6, a lamp clicked off in the hallway, leaving only the living room glowing. The couch cushions bore the gentle impressions of an evening well spent. A book lay open, face down, its pages marking a pause rather than an ending. The house seemed to breathe out as the lights dimmed. Further along, at number 9, the curtains were drawn carefully, just enough to keep the warmth in and the night close. The fabric moved slightly with the air, brushing the window like a quiet reassurance. Outside, the lane remained awake in its own way. A breeze drifted through, stirring fallen leaves into a slow, lazy dance. They skittered softly across the road, pausing at the curb as if deciding where to rest. One leaf settled near a storm drain, another against the tire of a parked car. Each found its place. The cat returned, padding silently along the sidewalk. It stopped near the steps of number 10, sat for a moment, and curled its tail neatly around its paws, its eyes half closed, listening, not for danger, but for familiarity. Everything sounded the same as it always had, and that was exactly how it should be. Far above, the sky deepened into a rich navy, and more stars revealed themselves. They blinked gently, unbothered by time, watching over the quiet routines below. The willow tree at the end of the lane shifted again, its branches brushing the air in long, slow arcs. The sound was steady and soothing, like waves against a distant shore. If you listened closely, you could match your breath to it without even trying. In one house, a soft blanket was pulled higher. In another, a door was closed gently, careful not to let the latch click too loudly. The lane noticed everything, and it held each sound, each movement, without judgment. As the night grew deeper, Willow Lane did what it always did best. It stayed. Later that night, Willow Lane began to remember. It didn't do so all at once, and not loudly. Memories arrived the way warmth lingers in a room after a lamp has been switched on, slowly, gently, without asking for attention. The houses stood still, but within them quiet echoes remained. Not sounds exactly, but impressions, the kind that stay long after moments have passed. At number 1, the oldest house on the lane, the floorboards rested with a familiar creak beneath the weight of time. They had carried footsteps for years, hurried ones in the mornings, softer ones at night. Tonight there were none, only stillness, deep and settled, as if the house itself were listening inward. A faint scent of wood and old books lingered in the air. It was the kind of smell that made a place feel known, even if you had never been there before. At number 4, a small lamp glowed beside a bed. Its light was low and amber, barely reaching the corners of the room. On the bedside table, a folded note rested beneath a pair of reading glasses. The words written on it had already been read earlier, but the feeling remained, a quiet sense of reassurance, of something resolved. The lamp would be turned off soon. There was no rush. Across the street, at number 8, a window reflected the stars. From inside, the reflection looked like the night had entered the room and decided to stay. Curtains breathed gently with the air, moving in slow, steady rhythms. Someone inside shifted in their sleep, exhaled, and grew still again. The lane noticed. It always did. Outside, the pavement held the warmth of the day just a little longer, releasing it slowly into the cool night. The air felt balanced now, not warm, not cold, comfortable, the kind of air that made it easier to let go of the day. The willow tree moved again, branches lowering slightly, leaves brushing together in a sound that felt almost intentional. If the lane had a heartbeat, this would have been it. Steady, calm, untroubled. A distant sound drifted in, not from the lane itself, but from somewhere far beyond it, a train horn, softened by distance. It passed through the night without interruption, then faded, leaving the quiet even deeper than before. Willow Lane did not resist the silence. It welcomed it. And in that welcome the houses rested, holding their memories gently, without replaying them, without asking for anything more. As the night continued, Willow Lane sank deeper into itself. The kind of deep that doesn't feel heavy, the kind that feels supportive, like a soft chair or a familiar bed waiting at the end of a long day. The streetlights remained steady now, their glow no longer changing, no longer flickering. They had reached the brightness they would keep for the rest of the night. Beneath them, the pavement looked smooth and calm, reflecting just enough light to soften every edge. Nothing sharp existed on Willow Lane tonight. At number 1, the oldest house on the street, the walls held a warmth earned over many years. Even in stillness, the house seemed gently aware of itself. The floorboards rested quietly, no longer shifting, no longer responding to footsteps. They had done enough for one day. The air inside carried a faint scent of polished wood and old paper. It was the kind of smell that encouraged stillness, that invited slow breathing without effort. A hallway clock ticked softly, not loudly, not urgently, just enough to remind the night that time was moving, calmly, patiently. At number 4, the small bedside lamp still glowed. Its light was low and amber, spreading softly across the wall like a slow sunset that refused to disappear too quickly. Shadows rested in the corners of the room, unmoving, comfortable in their place. A blanket lay neatly across the bed, folded back just enough to welcome sleep. The pillow held the shape of someone who had already begun to rest, even if they had not yet fully drifted away. The lamp would be turned off soon. There was no need to hurry. Across the street, at number 8, the curtains shifted gently with the night air. They moved in slow, quiet motions, barely noticeable, but steady. The open window allowed the sounds of Willow Lane to enter freely, the whisper of leaves, the distant hum of the world far beyond the street. Inside, breathing slowed. Each inhale found its way in easily. Each exhale left without resistance. Outside again, the lane itself remained watchful. Not alert, not tense, just aware. Fallen leaves rested where they had landed earlier. None of them moved now. They had already traveled far enough. The cat reappeared briefly, stepping into the soft circle of light beneath a street lamp. It paused there, stretching slowly, carefully, as though even movement itself had learned to be gentle. After a moment, it curled into itself near the warm pavement, eyes closing halfway. The night accepted this without question. At the end of Willow Lane, the willow tree swayed once more. Its branches dipped low, brushing the air with a sound so soft it almost blended into silence. The motion was slow and repetitive, like a lullaby without words. Back and forth, again and again. If you listened closely, you could match your breath to the movement of those branches, in and out. Far above, the stars held their places. They did not flicker or rush. They simply remained, scattered gently across the sky, watching the quiet below. A distant sound passed through the night, a car far away, a soft hum that faded almost as it arrived. Willow Lane absorbed it, then returned to stillness, unchanged. Inside the houses, sleep continued to approach slowly, not all at once, not suddenly, but steadily, and the lane stayed exactly as it was, calm, familiar, and safe, holding the night until morning was ready to arrive. By the time midnight approached, Willow Lane had fully settled. The street no longer changed with the passing minutes. Lights stayed steady, shadows rested where they had chosen to remain. Even the air seemed to hold itself gently, as if careful not to disturb the calm that had formed. The trees lining the lane moved slowly now, their branches heavy with stillness. Leaves brushed together from time to time, creating a soft, repeating sound that blended easily into the background of the night. It was a sound that asked nothing from the listener, only to be noticed and then gently forgotten. At number 2, a small nightlight glowed low near the floor, its pale circle of light barely touching the wall. The rest of the room remained comfortably dark. The bed stood quiet and welcoming, the blanket rising and falling with slow, even breathing. Sleep had already arrived here. Across the lane, at number 5, the kitchen rested in complete stillness. The sink was empty, the counters were clean. A chair sat slightly pulled back from the table, as though someone had stood up earlier and decided not to push it in just yet. The room remembered the day, but it did not replay it. It simply rested. Outside, the pavement had cooled fully now, releasing the last of its warmth into the night air. The temperature felt balanced, neither cold nor warm, the kind that allowed the body to relax without noticing it had done so. A faint breeze moved through the lane, gentle enough to pass unnoticed unless you listened for it. It carried with it the soft scent of leaves and distant grass, grounding and familiar. Near the center of the street, the cat shifted slightly in its sleep, curling in tighter before growing still again. Its quiet presence added to the sense that everything here was exactly where it belonged. At the far end of Willow Lane, the willow tree swayed in long, unhurried motions. Its branches dipped and lifted, as if keeping time for the night itself. The rhythm was slow enough to follow without effort. In and out. Above the houses, the stars remained fixed in place, their light faint but steady. They did not shimmer dramatically, they simply existed, offering quiet company to the lane below. From inside one house, a soft sound emerged, the turning of a page, slow and careful. The book closed gently afterward, not with finality, but with intention. A lamp dimmed, then clicked off. Darkness filled the room easily. Further along the lane, a door was closed softly, the latch held just enough to prevent any sound. Someone had learned the house well enough to know exactly how much pressure to use. The lane noticed. It always did. And it responded by holding the quiet even more securely, wrapping the houses in stillness, allowing the night to stretch on without interruption. Nothing needed to happen next. Nothing was expected. Willow Lane had reached the gentle middle of the night, the point where rest felt complete and time felt unimportant. And so it remained. The night had now moved fully inward. On Willow Lane, this was the hour when even the idea of movement felt unnecessary. The street rested, not because it was tired, but because it had reached a place where rest felt natural. The streetlights continued their steady glow, unchanged, dependable. Their light fell softly onto the pavement, smoothing every shadow, softening every line. Nothing stood out, nothing asked to be noticed. At number 3, the living room was wrapped in darkness now, save for the faint outline of furniture resting where it always had. The couch cushions held the memory of earlier warmth, slowly releasing it into the cool air. The blanket lay folded nearby, no longer needed. The house breathed evenly. At number 7, the open window had been closed part way. The curtain barely moved now, rising and falling with each gentle shift of air inside the room. The sounds of Willow Lane were still present, distant, muted, blending easily into sleep. Outside, the leaves that had once whispered now rested completely still. The breeze had settled, leaving the trees quiet and unmoving, their branches at ease. The willow tree at the end of the lane lowered its branches slightly, holding them there, as if pausing mid-motion. Even its endless sway had softened into something slower, deeper. In and out. A faint cloud drifted across the stars, dimming their light for a moment before passing on. The sky returned to clarity, unchanged by the interruption. Nothing disturbed the lane. Nothing needed to. Sleep had arrived fully now, not suddenly, not heavily, but thoroughly. Willow Lane held it gently. When time slows, time moved differently now. Minutes stretched, unmeasured. Seconds no longer mattered. On Willow Lane, the night unfolded without direction, without expectation. Inside number 5, the bedroom rested in complete darkness. The walls seemed to lean inward slightly, not closing in, but sheltering. The bed felt anchored, steady, reliable. Breathing remained slow and even. Across the lane, a house settled with a soft internal sound, the gentle shift of cooling wood. The sound passed quickly, leaving quiet behind it, deeper than before. Outside, the pavement reflected almost no light now, absorbing it instead. The street felt darker, but never unsafe. It was the kind of darkness that feels full rather than empty. The cat lifted its head briefly, eyes opening just enough to check the night. Satisfied, it lowered its head again, returning to sleep without hesitation. The willow tree resumed its movement, barely noticeable now, a motion so slow it could only be felt, not seen. If you listened closely, you could sense the entire lane breathing together. Houses, trees, air, and earth moving in quiet harmony. Nothing pulled attention forward. Nothing lingered behind. There was only this moment, and it was enough. By now, Willow Lane had entered its deepest quiet. This was the part of the night that felt widest, where time stretched gently, unmeasured, and nothing felt close or urgent. The street existed without effort, holding itself together through familiarity alone. The streetlights continued their steady glow, though their light felt softer now, as if even brightness had learned to rest. The pavement beneath them looked smooth and undisturbed, every small detail softened by shadow. Nothing had changed for a long while, and nothing needed to. At number 2, The bedroom rested in complete stillness. The bed stood solid and unmoving, its blankets settled into place. Breathing moved slowly here, rising and falling in an easy rhythm that required no attention. The walls held the quiet carefully, allowing no sharp sounds to enter. Across the lane, at number 5, the hallway remained dark. Doors stayed closed, not firmly, but gently, the kind of closed that feels welcoming rather than final. The air inside the house was warm and steady, untouched by drafts or noise. Further along, at number 7, the living room rested exactly as it had been left earlier. The chair near the window stood angled slightly toward the street, the knitted blanket draped over its arm without shifting. The window reflected nothing now but darkness and faint light, the outside world distant and unimportant. Outside, the trees lining Willow Lane stood nearly motionless. Their branches, once active with the breeze, had settled into stillness. Leaves no longer whispered, they simply existed, suspended in quiet. The willow tree at the end of the street continued its slow movement, though even that had softened further. Its branches dipped low, paused, and lifted again with careful patience. The sound they made was barely audible, more a feeling than a noise. Back and forth. The cat slept undisturbed near the center of the lane, its body curled neatly, tail wrapped close. Occasionally, its ears twitched in response to distant sounds that never reached the street itself. Satisfied, it remained asleep. Above, the sky held its deep color, neither changing nor fading. The stars stayed in place, their light steady and calm. They did not shimmer or draw attention, they simply watched. From far away, a sound passed through the night, a car on a distant road, softened by distance and time. It moved through the air without touching Willow Lane, then disappeared entirely. The lane did not react. It did not need to. Inside the houses, sleep deepened further. Dreams arrived slowly, gently, not vivid, not demanding, more like drifting impressions that passed without leaving weight behind. No one stirred. No one needed to. The street itself seemed to breathe, though no movement marked it. The air felt balanced, grounded, as if the entire lane had reached a shared understanding. This moment was enough. Time no longer felt like it was moving forward. It simply was. Willow Lane held this quiet carefully, the way it always had. It did not rush toward morning. It did not cling to night. It remained exactly where it was, steady, familiar, safe. And it would stay this way for as long as needed.
The night on Willow Lane began to loosen its hold in the softest way possible, not by leaving, but by easing. Darkness remained, deep and comforting, yet something within it had shifted. The stillness felt lighter now, as though the night had finished everything it needed to do. The street lights continued to glow, though their presence felt less important. Their light blended easily into the softening dark, no longer guiding, only accompanying. The houses remained asleep. Inside number 1, The oldest house on the lane, the walls rested deeply, holding warmth without effort. The floorboards stayed silent, settled, content. The air felt calm and complete, untouched by movement. At number 4, the bedroom remained wrapped in darkness. Breathing stayed slow and even, perfectly matched to the quiet around it. Sleep rested here fully, without interruption. Across the lane, the curtains at number 8 barely moved. The window reflected the faintest suggestion of light from the sky, though the room itself remained unchanged, calm, protected, still. The willow tree at the end of the street continued its gentle motion, though even that had softened further. Its branches lifted and lowered with infinite patience, keeping time for the final moments of night. In and out. Above the houses, stars began to fade, not disappearing, but retreating gently, as though stepping aside. The sky shifted almost imperceptibly, deep blue softening toward something lighter. Still not morning, just the promise of it. A single bird offered a quiet note from far away. It did not repeat itself, it did not call for attention. The sound existed briefly, then dissolved into the calm. Willow Lane accepted it without response. The cat stirred once, stretched slowly, and settled again. There was no reason to wake yet. The night still held space for rest. Beyond the lane, the world prepared to move again, but here nothing changed. The street remained exactly as it was, calm, familiar, and safe. Willow Lane had carried the night fully, and now, without hurry, it waited, allowing rest to linger just a little longer before the day arrived. At some point deep in the night, Willow Lane reached a moment that felt almost weightless. Not because anything had changed, but because nothing needed to. The streetlights still glowed, steady and familiar, their soft light resting gently on the pavement. The glow no longer shaped the street, it simply accompanied it, like a quiet presence that asked for nothing in return. The air felt settled now, unmoving and calm. It carried no sharpness, no chill, only balance. Breathing felt easier here, slower, deeper, as though the lane itself encouraged every inhale to linger just a little longer. At number 2, the bedroom remained wrapped in complete darkness. The bed stood solid and unmoving, its blankets resting naturally, shaped only by sleep. Breathing moved gently beneath them, steady and untroubled. The house held the quiet without effort. Across the street, at number 6, the living room rested exactly as it had been left. The lamp remained off. Furniture sat in comfortable stillness. The room did not remember the day anymore. It had let it go completely. Outside, the trees lining Willow Lane stood tall and unmoving. Their branches had settled long ago, and now even the smallest leaves remained still. The night held them carefully, allowing no breeze to disturb their rest. At the end of the street, the willow tree continued its slow, patient motion. Its branches dipped and lifted in a rhythm so gentle it could be mistaken for stillness. The sound they made was soft and distant, blending seamlessly into the background of the night. Back
and forth. The cat slept deeply now, undisturbed, its body curled neatly against the pavement. No sounds reached it, no movements disturbed its rest. The lane felt completely trustworthy. Above the houses, the sky had begun its quiet transition. The darkness remained, but it had softened slightly, as though light existed somewhere beyond it, waiting patiently. Stars still lingered, faint and calm, their presence gentle rather than bright. Not morning yet, just the sense that the night was complete. A distant sound moved through the world far beyond Willow Lane, something low and brief, softened by distance until it became meaningless. It passed without touching the street, leaving the quiet unchanged. The lane did not react. It simply remained. Inside the houses, sleep held firm. Muscles stayed relaxed. Thoughts drifted without form, without urgency. Nothing pulled attention forward, nothing lingered behind. Time felt wide now, open, unmeasured. Willow Lane rested within that space, holding the night gently, knowing there was no need to rush what was already perfect. Moon.
The night on Willow Lane began to loosen its hold in the softest way possible, not by leaving, but by easing. Darkness remained, deep and comforting, yet something within it had shifted. The stillness felt lighter now, as though the night had finished everything it needed to do. The street lights continued to glow, though their presence felt less important. Their light blended easily into the softening dark, no longer guiding, only accompanying. The houses remained asleep. Inside number 1, the oldest house on the lane, the walls rested deeply, holding warmth without effort. The floorboards stayed silent, settled, content. The air felt calm and complete, untouched by movement. At number 4, the bedroom remained wrapped in darkness. Breathing stayed slow and even, perfectly matched to the quiet around it. Sleep rested here fully, without interruption. Across the lane, the curtains at number 8 barely moved. The window reflected the faintest suggestion of light from the sky, though the room itself remained unchanged, calm, protected, still. The willow tree at the end of the street continued its gentle motion, though even that had softened further. Its branches lifted and lowered with infinite patience, keeping time for the final moments of night. In and out. Above the houses, stars began to fade, not disappearing, but retreating gently, as though stepping aside. The sky shifted almost imperceptibly, deep blue softening toward something lighter. Still not morning, just the promise of it. A single bird offered a quiet note from far away. It did not repeat itself. It did not call for attention. The sound existed briefly, then dissolved into the calm. Willow Lane accepted it without response. The cat stirred once and stretched slowly and settled again. There was no reason to wake yet. The night still held space for rest. Beyond the lane, the world prepared to move again, but here nothing changed.
The street remained exactly as it was, calm, familiar, and safe. Willow Lane had carried the night fully, and now, without hurry, it waited, allowing rest to linger just a little longer before the day arrived.